Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I often talk about how there are good and bad people in just about every profession, and that people should actually earn your respect. If you're respectful to somebody else and they're respectful back, hopefully that's going to build a rapport. And I am the first one to talk about the issue of police brutality being a very real one, but not always a racial one. However, there's a whole nother aspect to this corruption that often does not get talked about. And it's hinted about in series like The Keepers, the Netflix show that went into the mysterious murder of a nun that led back to what looked like a high level ring of abusers in the Baltimore area that also included police officers. And a lot of people like to call the book or the incident that this book is based on a hoax. I would say to them to please read not only the John DeCamp book, but this Nick Bryant book. And then please, I beg of you, go through all of this documentation, all of the court files, and tell me there's not something there. And of course, if you know anything about the Franklin scandal that I'm talking about, it involved people in law enforcement, people in government, people in banking, people of influence. And so just today, after this large ring is busted by the DOJ, we have another incident that I think that we need to talk about, because this man did this for decades, allegedly. And I'm just going to play the clip here, and we'll let it speak for itself. And then we'll go into the details of these charges.
Anything to say, Jack? Comment? Former St. Tammany Parish Sheriff Jack Strain without words as he was booked into the same jail he once ran. The charges could land him there for life.
In the fall of 2017, the Louisiana State Police, the FBI, and the IRS presented me with evidence that former St. Tammany Parish Sheriff Jack Strain had engaged in sex crimes.
Strain was indicted Tuesday morning by a grand jury. The indictment said Strain committed aggravated rape on two victims under the age of 12, starting in the late 1970s and continuing until the 1980s. The indictment also said Strain committed aggravated incest on two more victims under the age of 18, starting in 1996 when he was sheriff until the mid-2000s. If Strain is found guilty, St. Tammany DA Warren Montgomery said Strain must serve a mandatory sentence of life in prison.
I have a duty to pursue justice when a crime has been committed. The grand jury also has a duty. And when presented with evidence that makes a determination of probable cause evident to them, they returned an indictment in this matter.
There are currently two investigations into Jack Strain, one from the state and one from the feds. This indictment is on the state case. The federal case surrounds an alleged kickback scheme involving the privatization of the now defunct St. Tammany Workforce Solutions.
So, a criminal on many levels. But let's take a look at, we saw the two under 12 years old, I believe. Victims as young as 6. A veteran former Louisiana sheriff faces life in prison. Now, first of all, there's a $400,000 bond out for this guy. Why? Why is there any bond for these people? Why are we not treating these charges like an attempted murder or a murder? These are serial offenders against children. Okay? So he was arrested on one abuse charge and one incest charges dating back to 75 against victims as young as 6. They talked about victims of 12. And remember, this is a law enforcement guy. This was the head of the sheriff's department, I believe. There are pictures of him in front of everyone. This is a lifelong guy. And let me say this. Right away, people that worked with him are trying to defend themselves, while others that investigated this case are so disgusted, they're like, oh no, obviously there was a cover-up here. Obviously. So let's read this right now. Current Sheriff Randy Smith, whose opponents on the October 12th election include Strain Lieutenant Tim Lentz, issued a statement calling Strain's arrest disgraceful and shocking. Smith, a former longtime sheriff's deputy himself, didn't mention Lentz by name in the statement, but said, I was also duty-bound to determine if any of the sheriff's associates or colleagues were complicit or aware of any of the information that we learned upon investigating. And give me a break. Again, decades going on from the 70s. Listen, I'll be 40 in about 5 weeks. This happened well before I was born. This man is just going to jail. Even the man who's putting him there, did you just hear him? He got this information in the fall of 2017. You know what that means? It took him just over a year and a half to get a concrete case on this guy who is a serial offender according to these charges. So let me keep reading this, okay? The revelations led me to make several changes in the upper ranks of the sheriff's office. There is no room for a good old boys network in law enforcement, especially one that may be willing to put friendship over the law. Smith's statement, which came shortly after Strain's arrest was announced, drew a response later in the day from Lentz, a former longtime member of the sheriff's office who served for a time as Strain's chief deputy. Remember, Strain was running the sheriff's department while these things were happening. You understand that? And his right-hand man, no charges against him, but obviously this guy rearranged and threw some shade his way, and he's going to deny and say that he had no idea. Gross. Give me a break. And again, I want to talk about this. This man, take a good look. He made his way up through the ranks, became a longtime sheriff, is accused of doing unthinkable things to children and family members. Okay? For decades. For decades. So, one more time, when I hear this stuff, I think about this. I think about Lawrence King and the ring that surrounded him. I think about Jerry Sandusky and how there was a lot of evidence that Jerry Sandusky and that whole scandal had a lot of people around him. I think about Jeffrey Epstein and all the people that surrounded him and names like Kevin Spacey and Bill Clinton. I think about Nexium, and I think about them buying political influence with Hillary Clinton and being billionaire heiresses. So once again, guys, you look at this and you have to ask yourself, how much more of this is going on? You want to believe it's an isolated incident. You want to believe this can't happen in your neighborhood, in your town, in your city. But corruption exists. Psychopaths, sociopaths, abusers of children exist. And when you have people like Dennis Hassert, who were doing this to children back when he was a gym teacher and wrestling coach, a man that made his way all the way up to the Speaker of the House and has never, ever been charged with a crime against kids. Third heartbeat away from the presidency. Longest serving Republican speaker at the time, of all time at that time. When they can get that high up, when people like Sir Edward Heath, who would now have to answer to some pretty hard evidence that's out there that he too was an abuser of children, the former UK Prime Minister, you have to ask yourself, why in the world are we allowing these people to get this powerful? Why in the world are we even allowing this man to have a $400,000 bond to walk out on? He's looking at life in prison, and he should get life in prison. That's what we need to do to these people. I don't understand it. Just because somebody has money or power should not let them forego the abuse of children. That's about all I have to say on the matter, guys. If you're tuning in for the first time, if you like this content, we're doing a lot of this stuff. We may even do some more stuff on Iran tonight. I'm not sure. It's looking pretty grim there, but obviously we covered that. We covered Jessica Biel. We covered Bryan Singer, latest allegations, Nexium. We got a little MMA in there, Bezos, Savile, DARPA, Trump and his moon comments, Dershowitz, and more JFK deep dives. Please subscribe. Join the Burmis Brigade. Thumbs this video up. Share it on social media. And guys, you can ring that bell for notifications, or you can just kind of star this and come back and check it out. Notifications if you like being part of the live stream and the conversation, which I always love having you. Always super chats help and all that stuff, guys. I'm going to continue on. I think that was video 6 or 7 of the day, trying to crank them out. We'll see you on the flip. Thanks again.